LiSNTR production.
Hi, it's Helen Smith here with you. Welcome to the afternoon edition of The Briefing. Coming up in our deep dive, our obsession with celebrity is hard to ignore, whether we like it or not. And over the past week, we were bombarded with headlines about Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban filing for divorce after 19 years of marriage, putting in question our parasocial obsession with celebrity love, marriage and divorces. But first, let's check the afternoon headlines. It's Friday, the 3rd of October. Accused murderer and former New South Wales police officer Beau Lamar Condon told a Supreme Court judge that the truth will prevail, as a date for his trial over the alleged murders of Jesse Baird and Luke Davies was set for September next year. The 30-year-old told the court he will not be silenced after already pleading not guilty to all charges during a previous hearing. Lamar Condon is accused of shooting Baird and Davies with his firearm at Bear's home in Sydney's eastern suburbs in February last year. He became the first serving New South Wales police officer charged with murder in several decades, with the trial estimated to last between 2 and 3 months. New South Wales Police have urged the Palestinian Action Group to relocate a planned rally at the iconic Sydney Opera House next week, or face the possibility of being tested in the Supreme Court. The group stated they plan to protest at the Opera House because of its long-standing reputation as an anti-war symbol, posting to socials that they're demanding the Australian government sanction Israel after 2 years of genocide. But New South Wales Police Minister Yasmin Catley says the Opera House is off limits. However, the Assistant Commissioner Peter McKenna says this is not because authorities are anti-protest.
We facilitate thousands of protests, and in fact, with this particular group, we've been facilitating protests and public assemblies for the last 2 years. So it's not a matter of us not wanting them to have a public assembly. It's not even a matter about it being at the Opera House itself. It's about public safety.
The Assistant Commissioner went on to say that the Action Group has estimated 10,000 would attend. However, due to the number of people that marched across the Sydney Harbour Bridge back in August for Palestine, those numbers are expected to be much greater. And Taylor Swift's long-awaited album, The Life of a Showgirl, is here, sending fans into meltdown. At 41 minutes, it's the shortest album Swift has released since her debut in 2006, with the sales of Life of a Showgirl and the album's movie theatre release parties adding handsomely to the pop star's worth, now sitting at $2.1 billion, up $1 billion from just 2 years ago, according to Bloomberg. Now it's time to get into our deep dive with LiSNR's entertainment reporter Justin Hill on the end of Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban's 19 years of marriage, involving millions of dollars, prenups, and allegedly a cocaine clause. But how do these high-profile breakups shape our own relationships, and why do we label our obsession with celebrity marriage and divorces as just entertainment when it can be so much more? Justin. Why do we care so much about love, marriage and divorces, especially when it comes to celebrities?
Do you know what I think it is? I think the era of celebrities being completely private has well and truly passed. I think publicists probably pull their hair out on the daily these days because celebrities have become their own publicists with access to social media. And once upon a time, a manager or a publicist would have said, no, don't share that private moment. Keep it a mystery. Keep it away from the fans. They can't know everything about you. You've got to be some kind of like elusive, who knows who they're dating. And we still get a lot of that, but we also get a lot of celebs, volunteering to share some of the more intimate parts of their private lives. And you got people like Adele, who's been banned from her social media by her management team because she used to have a couple of wines and get on there and share all sorts of stuff with people. So now these days, I think we feel closer to celebrities because they have given us an unprecedented look into their personal lives. So I think we feel like we have a more personal connection with them.
And when it comes to celebrity divorces, how would you describe what we're seeing with Nicole and Keith at the moment?
Messy, but also very typical. I think the thing is that Nicole and Keith have always maintained, and I think this comes from Nicole's marriage to Tom Cruise, they've always kind of maintained a very particular level of access. You know, you would see, and this is the thing, we're seeing a lot of old interviews come up where they would speak about each other. And there have been moments where they've been gushing. I mean, Keith has said, you know, he's used Nicole's mantra of choose love, and he described his marriage to her as him being born into her. So they've been very gushing about each other, but particularly in the last couple of years have probably pulled back a little bit from that and have not said so much about each other. So the thing is that as soon as we hear about, you know, a couple who we thought would be together forever, people want to know all of the details, and then they start looking everything up again. They start looking through their prenup. They start looking at this wild cocaine clause that apparently was in their prenup that would see Keith getting something like $1.4 million per year they were married if he stayed clean and sober. So people start to go back historically and look at like all of these little things that popped up along the way because they want to know where it fell apart.
Speaking of some of those clauses in prenups that you mentioned, how common are things like this for not only celebs, but just powerful people?
I would say in 2025, very common because the rule book has kind of been rewritten. So celebrities are no longer kind of being told by their lawyers what to do. They're in a state where they can go to their legal team and say, look, this is our situation. We don't hate each other. Let's just assume. We want to raise our children in a healthy environment, and we want to put down in writing, as you know, Nicole and Keith have, that we need to speak positively about each other. So I think we're in an era where celebrities have so much control over what it is they're doing. I mean, you could go so far as to say, look at what Taylor Swift has done with re-recording her catalogue of music, and now she eventually became the owner of it again. You know, all of that stuff is being rewritten. So I think we've got a situation where the celebs are like, they're asking the question. Instead of going to their lawyers and going, what do I do? How do we mitigate this? How do we fix this problem? They go, hang on a minute. Can we just do this? And then the lawyers go, well, yeah, I suppose so. And if you're paying your lawyer huge amounts of money, they make these things happen. The thing with Keith and Nicole is that even though their split was down as, I think it was September 30, their parenting agreement was written up a month prior. And they both signed off on it. And it is very amicable. And it talks about them being positive about each other. Nicole has the girls for 306 days of the year or something like that. And Keith has them every second weekend. So I think they're approaching it in the sense that they know the public cannot see them fighting with each other because there will already be a lot of speculation. So if they can approach this in a really healthy manner, then they are at least stopping a lot of that narrative that will evidently come up.
And we know that Australians are marrying and divorcing less, with the cost of living playing into that. So how much money do we know is involved in Nicole and Keith's separation?
It keeps going up. The latest report that I saw is $750 million. We are talking lots of money. Interestingly, though, in the court documents, they did say that their monthly earnings sit at about $100,000 each. But that's just what they're earning. You have to kind of look at, you know, Nicole has her production company. I mean, celebrities are so smart these days. They have businesses. They employ their families. They have tax write-offs. They own assets. Nicole and Keith spent $30 million on buying up a bunch of apartments in one building in Sydney. So you can imagine from an asset perspective and from, you know, I mean, Nicole has literally been in everything in the last couple of years. So yeah, we're talking about $750 million between them, and that doesn't seem to be slowing down at any point. So, you know, you're talking big dollars here, and then they obviously need to protect that and at the same time protect their family, and then at the same time as that protect their public image, because Nicole has, I mean, Keith's always touring. He's got music coming out all the time. Nicole's got so many projects coming up. She just wrapped Practical Magic 2. So this is the thing, is that people are going to want to talk to her about the split, and she is not going to want to talk about it at all.
Now, people can often slam our obsession with celebrity marriages and divorces as just entertainment. But is it fulfilling something deeper, like a cultural or emotional need?
I think you've kind of got this, I want to throw back to Brangelina, to Brad and Angelina, you know, breaking up. And there was this huge kind of like, are you, and even Jennifer Aniston, when Brad and Angelina got together, are you team Jen? Are you team Angelina? You know, and I think it goes back to that. I think people watch these relationships, they become very invested from one side because, you know, these celebrities don't know who we are. I've interviewed Keith and Nicole at least half a dozen times, and I would never expect them to remember who I am. But what happens is we get invested in their love story. And I think that comes back to wanting to believe that there are still happy endings out there for some people, that, we get our happily ever after. And there two things happen. When that breaks down, people either feel like they are so invested in that they have this personal connection to these celebrities because they have grown with them. They have seen, Nicole divorcing Tom and then, being with Keith and ultimately being very happy, 2 children. And then so they feel like, oh, these are my friends. On the flip side of that, people look to point out the errors of others, and they want to look through their history and be like, you weren't that happy. You weren't, you were pretending. I mean, one of the big things that I've seen is Nicole just a month ago still wearing her wedding and engagement ring, and people are like, aha, but the history shows that they broke up long before that. So I think there's this, people feel like there's a personal connection there, but some people also want to, catch them out, to be like, you're not living your happily ever after. You were just lying to us all along.
Do you think that these high-profile breakups shape how we view our own relationships, even if it is subconsciously?
It has to. It has to, because these people influence us as a society. They are setting the standard. I feel like people are probably a little bit braver looking at how celebrities have taken control over their own narrative. You look at people like Britney Spears with her conservatorship, the public outcry of that was something that broke her free of that, but she suffered under it for years. So I think that it is inevitable that these celebrity situations, whether they are, weddings or divorces or people getting together or how they're dealing with their personal life, it absolutely has a flow-on effect into real-world applications and real-world people, and maybe not necessarily so direct because we don't have, $750 million in our bank account, but we certainly do. This is the thing, is why people connect with people like Nicole and Keith, because ultimately love and sadness and breakup and all of those things are universal. So we're all going through them and we all deal with them differently. And I think a lot of people look to celebrities for a little bit of respite and also influence as well.
Now, 19 years for anyone is a long time to stay married.
Mm-hmm.
Famous or not, is this part of the reason that we're so fascinated with Nicole and Keith?
Yeah, because I think that people don't expect things to last that long. You see these relationships happen and you especially see them unfold so publicly these days. It's almost like a celebrity has to announce when they're dating someone. We see them go Instagram official. So that's expected of a celebrity to do that these days. And then we as a society want these updates from them at how are things going. It's like we're checking in with them just to see how their relationship is going. So when it ends, we kind of are all like, what? And this shocked a lot of people because for all we could see, they were a very happy couple. But what it's showing us is that they're actually just a very normal couple. They had a 19-year marriage and things just didn't go right in the end, which happens to everyday regular people. The era of staying in a marriage because you feel like it's your duty, I feel is over. You've got a lot of generations who are like, well, I stayed in the marriage for my kids. Well, no, why do that though? Because your kids want to see you happy. Would your kids want to see you, depressed and sad just because they can say their mum and dad are together? No, they want to see them happy. So I think we're in an era now where, it is more common. So when you see someone like Keith and Nicole who've been together for 19 years, it is a bit of a shock because how many celebrities can we say have been together for that long?
Now, you mentioned this before that Nicole and Keith were kind of seen as the perfect couple through many generations. What do high-profile divorces like this reveal about the pressure we put on our own relationships?
I feel that what this tells us is that we shouldn't believe everything we see online. And the thing is sometimes the celebrities themselves are guilty of portraying a narrative online that isn't true. But you look at Keith and Nicole, they weren't the ones that were coming out saying we are a perfect couple. We just perceived them that way. And pop culture perceived them that way. They also didn't come out and say we're having marriage issues because they just have been neutral on the whole thing. They've talked about their love of each other, which is very normal. But the thing is that they've kept the details private and this kind of public narrative has been created around them. So then they've kind of got to live up to it. All relationships take effort. And they're a compromise and they're a work in progress forever. And anyone who says that their relationship is perfect, in my book, is lying. And I think it's the same as celebrities. And the thing is, though, is we just don't get to see maybe a true version of that sometimes. We're seeing a curated version either that they are portraying or people around them are portraying.
Justin, thank you so much for joining us on The Briefing.
Thank you.
That was LiSNR's entertainment reporter, Justin Hill there. And that's it for this episode of the afternoon edition of The Briefing. But we'll be back with the weekend briefing tomorrow with Antoinette Lattouf, joined by one of Australia's top forensic reporters, Liz Porter.
One of them is forensic entomology, where scientists look at the insects found on a dead body and see what they can tell them about the progression of insects to a body. Will tell you how long that individual has been dead, because first come the flies, and this magnificent maternal instinct of these blowflies who are just wanting to feed their babies, and that's why they want to feed on human blood.
We'd love you to subscribe wherever you're listening from, or you can follow us on Instagram at The Briefing Podcast. Until then, I'm Helen Smith. Catch you next time.